a huge part of photography is analog photography, so anything on film is considered analog. Analogue Wonderland really fits into the subject of what we just spoke about earlier. This is everything film related. Tell me, what is the most popular film these days and why is it popular? Why do people buy the particular brand you have? Because I only know one brand really. I just use one Ilford and that's it.
That's perfect, yeah.
It's good enough for what I need. I don't do that much, so you know, I don't really experiment enough with my analog photography. So I don't go into the extremes of the film. So let's start from the basics. What is the most popular and why is it popular?
So everyone knows Kodak, household name in the analog photography and otherwise as well. So recently there's been a bit of trouble getting colour film produced because when digital took over, no one was producing it. And recently Kodak have been able to produce so much more colour film. So now for everyone, whether you're new or experienced, Kodak Gold, for example, is just a perfect all-round film for starters. So we've been selling lots of that today, recommending it. Kodak Ultramax as well. And you've got other favourites like Kodak Color Plus, which is really hard to get hold of, but they're just good for everyone. Just because it's good for a beginner doesn't mean it's not good for a professional as well. But we say about experimenting, I would always recommend not to experiment until you've had a good few rolls at the start. Get a few good results back, then you're ready to try and experiment. So we've got some films here like Harman Phoenix. This is from Ilford, who are just next to us here at the photography show as well. And this is brand new, first colour film produced in the UK in a long time. They focus on black and white. So we've been recommending that as a starting point for just trying to get people into experimenting. It's really red, it struggles in darkness and shadows, so it's just a nice outdoor film to use. And then like you said, HP5, that is just perfect for everyone again. It's very forgiving, you can shoot it in all types of situations and you get great results every time with that one.
Initially, like the first thought I have when I think film is portraits, maybe landscapes, right? So what if I want to get into something a little bit more extreme perhaps? What would you recommend?
A little bit extreme, so like for 120, you still have a lot of choices as well, but for both types, you've got portrait like you mentioned, so portraits, you want to stick to something like portrait. You've got different speeds, so this is 800 for lower light, and then you've got 160 and 400, which are perfect for portraits. Skin tones are great, but like you're saying, you want to experiment a bit. We've got some really funky ones from Revolog. So Revolog, in 35mm, they'll do loads of films like laser, where there's just lasers shot all over it. There's lightning bolt ones, there's bubbles, all kinds of crazy stuff. But just because it has that doesn't mean it's not useful. You might like that for what you're shooting in a portrait, for example. So
is this like an effect that kind of ends up being ingrained in the photo later?
Indeed, yeah. So they've performed something on the film before, we've sold it, and every single shot will come out with this effect all over it. There's ones with, like I said, bubbles, lightning bolts, just glowing.
Oh, so it's like pre-exposed, basically?
Pre-exposed in some way, absolutely. Not like a film soup, but exposed to some form of light. Otherwise, they've just got for 120 more purple tones, more red tones, stuff like that as well. There's so much you can do, 120 or 35mm and experimenting. It's still colour, but it's so washed with the colour that it would also look like it is
like a mist type of thing?
Yeah, exactly. It will look like that, and depending on the lighting, you might get stronger contrast out of it as well. But largely, you're going to be seeing just one colour, but again, depends on the lighting as well.
What is the difference between different films? So obviously, if I do portraits, if I do landscapes, I need different type of film, right?
Yes.
So what would I look for? Let's start with portraits.
So portraits, yeah, like we spoke about, portrait you just want because the colours are warm. All the reviews say that skin tones come out really well on it as well, and it's available in lots of different speeds of film as well. So if you know you're going to be indoors, you're going to go maybe for a 400 or an 800, but if you're going to be outside, then 160 is fantastic, especially outside person in like a landscape setting as well, natural sunlight, then you're going to go for that. To be honest, with that, when you do portraits, you kind of want to stick with one film, especially if you're a business person and you're shooting subjects for your company over and over again. You want to stick with the same film
to make it predictable, I assume.
Exactly, yes. But if you know you're going to be shooting street photography, or if you're just going to parties and stuff like that, then that's where the options really come up. So if you ever see, I always say to people, you see those petrol station photos where the lights are shining down and popping, it's usually going to be something like a Cine-Still 800T. Although they do have 400 speed and 50 speed for like really strong daylight. But a lot of the street photography you'll see on Instagram or all over social media, a lot of it's taken with Kodak Vision respooled film, which is like Cine-Still 800T. So that's been really popular this weekend as well.
Just for people who never experienced film before, are the numbers still just ISO, or is it something different now?
There's a lot of numbers going on all the canisters, so I think the important parts to remember are you have the exposures, which is how many shots you get.
Yeah.
You may not get that many exposures back if you don't use the camera correctly, but that's how you learn it. So if everything goes well, you'll get 24 or 36, which is on the box, and then usually it will say ISO or speed, and that will be usually like a few in hundreds. Yeah. However, you do get some funky films, we can talk about those later, where they're really different.
So the lower ISO or lower speed, like in the studio, portraits perhaps, controlled lighting type of thing?
Yes, you'll need to control your lighting, and I think with lower speed films, you only want to start using those again when you've kind of mastered the 200 and 400, and you know your camera really well as well.
Okay, so is this what you would recommend to start with?
Yeah, I'd recommend to start with 400.
Okay.
If you've got a point and shoot camera with not a lot of settings you can change, I always recommend 400. 200 is fine as well, but usually a new photographer is going to go around and maybe be shooting indoors or in low light environments. So I just say 400, stick with that, and once you've got a great set of results there, dip your toe either way and then just keep going.
How hard is it to get film these days? Because it used to be super popular, then it just kind of disappeared for a while. Yeah. Now it's coming back really fast.
Really fast. Yeah.
Do we have like new factories? Like I know Kodak does brand new film these days. I think it was Smarter Every Day did a massive trip around Kodak factory.
Yeah.
Do we have more factories these days, or are they the old factories reused?
Film is more widely available now than it was 2, 3, 5 years ago, but the amount of machines producing these films is so much less than it was back, say, the late 90s or mid-noughties. There's nowhere near as many machines doing it, so a lot of the films that you see here are respooled films. They've taken Kodak Vision film, which is old like cinema film, or not even old, just current cinema film, and it's been respooled, rebranded. They've changed the speeds to give you different effects, stuff like that as well. So it's a lot of it is experimental just because there's not a lot of other options there. So Kodak still have their factory, but I think they sold off a lot of machinery when the drop happened. When digital came in, they didn't need all the machinery they had, so they're running with much less machinery. But I think if this growth can continue, and all the people here seem to be like loving film more and more, I think there's going to be more money invested by these companies, and we'll start seeing more types of film, more companies popping up as well. Yeah.
The reason behind film coming back, in my opinion, is it's kind of seen as more creative. Because you have to think about every single shot. It's not just, you click until you get something. You have a limited number of shots and you kind of cherish every single one, because basically, let's face it, it costs more. But also, the process is completely different. So you have to prepare for the photo. You can't just kind of continue shooting, as I mentioned. You end up with, let's say, 36, 24 photos. And this is what you get, that's it. You have to change the film, and that's the whole process. Let's say we already have the photos on the roll. It's all exposed. Can you tell me what do we do next? How do we handle the film afterwards?
So once you've shot your film and you know how to rewind it and you can take it out of your camera, you might have a local film lab near you, an independent, who have been doing it for years, and they'll happily help you out there. Otherwise, like us, as a mail order lab, that we're a place where you can just send it off to us and we give you live updates about how your film's going through the lab. So through the website, you can choose different types of scanning resolutions. You can tell us you only want it developed because you want to scan it yourself at home, which is a whole nother thing. Yeah. But you can just choose settings, choose resolutions, and if you want it edited or if you just want normal scans back, you get it uploaded either on WeTransfer or our own website. We have it, we upload those images there. And from there, you can choose which ones you want printed. Because these days it's good to see what you get first, maybe before getting everything printed. Because when you're testing and experimenting, as a new photographer, you're probably not going to like everything you get on your roll. So, and that's completely normal, because like you said, for a lot of people it was really common to know how to do film photography. You know how to use the cameras, you know it, but I think for the new generation of film photographers, they don't know that. They didn't grow up with it like I did, or like a few other people did. So they need to learn the hard way, ruin some shots maybe, ruin a film, have a light leak in the camera. It's all part of the journey. The great thing now is you have YouTube, you have forums and websites, so where 20 years ago we didn't have that, but there's so many more resources where you can type your model of camera into YouTube and learn about how to load it, how to unload it, how to prevent light leaks, all this stuff as well. So everything is there with companies like us trying to help new photographers. You can send the film in to us to develop, and also YouTube, like you can learn all about your camera. It's really easy to get into this.
The experience I have with analog photography is less of this is a tool for the job, and more this is a massive family of people just really passionate about this stuff and wanting everyone to do well in it, so we all get the film back
You're completely right. There's like a lot of people, just independent people, not even companies. They're running darkroom workshops and film workshops, and they're doing photo walks in London. I think one of our colleagues is going to London this weekend to do a photo walk there, and it's all about a community and being together and helping each other. There's no competitiveness here. We're not all like professional photographers trying to take part of the market or something like that. And even as a company ourselves, we work with other companies to give everyone the best opportunity to come into this as well. So there's like a Analogue talks over there where people are talking about the beauty of darkrooms, the beauty of getting into photography or doing wedding photography on film. So there's something for everyone, either here at a show or online or just by talking to other people. You'll learn so much.
So let's finish on what's the most important in analog photography, which is cameras.
Yes.
Tell me, do you sell cameras, and what sells the most? Because I personally prefer vintage cameras, so I buy them on eBay and sites like that. I restore them myself, fix them up, and use them as much as I can. But what is there new to pick up right now?
So yeah, good question. So we do sell vintage cameras. We have some from Camera Store in Europe, which are all fully checked and maintained, and they come with a warranty. However, for a lot of people, they want something newer, something that's maybe easier to carry. So for example, there's the Kodak XR H35N. This takes half frame. So instead of you getting your full frame, like you might expect on a disposable camera or on any other vintage camera, it takes 2 photos per normal size frame. So instead of getting 36 exposures, you get 72, as long as you shoot it right, as long as you remember to use the flash indoors and stuff like that. So these are becoming really popular, and we sell quite a lot of those. Half frames are becoming more and more popular. They weren't common at all a few years ago, but now they're just getting so much more popular because they're more efficient for your buck, basically.
There you have it, guys. If you want anything to do with analog film photography, come to Analogue Wonderland, is that right?
That's it, yeah.
Find Max and speak to him. Thank you very much, Max. It was a pleasure. And I hope to see you guys soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.